Breaking news, January 11th, 2026. Ukraine hits Russian oil in Volgograd as U.S. seizes tanker. This latest wave of kinetic and economic warfare marks a profound escalation. If you support Ukraine in Europe, now is the time to stay informed. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex.
And I'm Arya.
Join us for the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments.
And today, we are really digging into how these two massive events, happening almost at the same time, are actually one coordinated story.
Right. We're talking about how Kiev responded to Moscow's latest missile intimidation with a precise strike deep into Russian territory.
Just as Washington took direct action against the Kremlin's attempts to evade sanctions on the high seas.
This is the new reality of strategic attrition. So let's unpack what these simultaneous military and economic actions tell us about the 2026 campaign.
For you, our mission today is to connect what look like two separate events: a drone attack thousands of kilometers from the front, and a U.S. seizure in the Caribbean.
They seem totally unrelated.
But they're not. We are seeing a coordinated, multi-domain strategy unfold. It's a dual assault focused entirely on degrading Russia's logistical capacity and financial endurance.
So these aren't just separate headlines.
No. There were two punches landed in the same week, aiming at the exact same strategic weakness: Russia's ability to sustain a long war.
Okay, let's unpack the kinetic side first. The headline that really sent shockwaves through Russian infrastructure. On January 10th, Ukrainian Defense Forces confirmed a major drone strike on the Zhutovska oil depot
In the Oktyabrsky district of Russia's Volgograd Oblast.
So strategically, why does that location matter so much? It is nowhere near the front lines.
And that's the key. The location is the message. The strike happened overnight. Local officials confirmed a huge fire. But if you pull up a map, Volgograd is incredibly far into the Russian rear. We're talking about 1,000 kilometers from the nearest Ukrainian-held territory.
1,000 kilometers.
And the depot itself is another 130 kilometers south of the city of Volgograd, right near critical logistical arteries, rivers, railway lines.
So this wasn't just about blowing up a fuel tank. This was about hitting the network.
Absolutely. It's a major logistical node. By striking this hub, Ukraine isn't just taking fuel off the board for a few days. They're injecting chaos and delay into the entire fuel distribution network that supplies military units in the south and east.
It forces them to find new routes.
Longer, more complex, and more vulnerable routes to resupply. It increases their costs and slows everything down. This is what systematic attrition looks like.
And sources are highlighting this wasn't just some isolated lucky hit.
No, not at all. It was part of a major offensive that night.
Yeah.
We saw 6 Russian targets get hit in a single evening, linking that deep strike strategy in Volgograd with ongoing attrition closer to the front in occupied Donetsk and Zaporizhia.
It shows a real maturation of their asymmetric warfare capabilities.
It does. They're leveraging these long-range, low-cost UAVs for systematic attrition against the war economy's backbone.
And we're talking about specific platforms, right? Like the AN-196 Ludy.
Yes, the Ukrainian Shahid, as some call it. That's what was used to hit the Volgograd depot.
But what about the other drones? What did they use for the other 5 targets?
Well, that's what's so smart. It was a coordinated strike with different platforms for different targets. The Ludy has the long range for strategic logistics, like the oil depot.
Okay.
But at the same time, they used the UJ-26 Bober, a different long-range drone, to hit high-value military targets closer to the front. Things like UAV control centers in Pokrovsk and Hernik.
So they're running parallel campaigns.
Exactly. One stream hitting the economic pain points, the fuel, and another degrading military command and control. It's an incredibly efficient use of their resources.
And this systematic campaign, hitting 6 targets in one night, it takes on a whole new meaning when you look at the timeline.
It does, because you have to view the Volgograd strike as a deliberate counter-escalation.
A response.
A direct response. On January 9th, just before this, Russia deployed the Oreshnik missile against targets in Lviv. This was a maximalist, psychological, and strategic signal.
The Oreshnik is a huge deal. It's a hypersonic, intermediate-range ballistic missile, an IRBM.
Nuclear capable.
Yeah.
And the crucial part is the payload.
The MIRV payload, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. For you listening, what does MIRV actually mean and why is it such a threat?
That's essential context. A MIRV means that one single missile, after it launches, separates into multiple warheads.
Well, not just one projectile.
No, you suddenly have 3, 4, maybe more targets appearing at once, all coming from the same missile. It's a nightmare for air defense systems.
Because they have to try and intercept all of them.
Right. You have to fire exponentially more of your expensive interceptors to deal with just one incoming missile. It's designed to overwhelm defenses.
And you combine that with its speed over 8,000 miles per hour, it becomes a tool for what experts call reflexive control.
Exactly. The Kremlin's goal here was classic reflexive control. Use a high-cost, high-profile weapon to intimidate your opponent, to change their behavior.
And the behavior they wanted to change was European resolve.
It was aimed right at deterring the U.S. and Europe from providing long-term security guarantees, like a multinational assurance force after the war. Moscow wants to signal that the risk of escalation is just too high.
But the Volgograd strike, just a day later, signals that Kyiv is simply not buying it.
That is the critical takeaway. Moscow used its most expensive, highest-tech weapon to threaten. And Kyiv's response is to take its cheap drones and systematically attack Russia's economic Achilles heel.
Its fuel and its logistics.
It's a declaration that high-profile ballistic intimidation will not stop the systematic attrition campaign. It's the difference between a loud threat and quiet, persistent economic pain.
So we've seen the kinetic response, but for that Volgograd strike to truly hurt, it has to be paired with pressure on the money that funds those supply lines.
And that brings us to what was happening on the high seas, almost at the exact same moment.
The timing is incredible.
The coordination, whether it was explicit or just tacit, is remarkable. While the kinetic war was escalating, the economic war was targeting the shadow fleet.
The system Russia uses to illegally sell its oil. Tell us about the U.S. action.
So on January 9th, the U.S. Navy and Homeland Security seized an oil tanker called the Olina in the Caribbean Sea.
And this wasn't the first one.
No, it's the 5th such seizure in just a few weeks. It shows a really sustained enforcement effort. The Olina was caught red-handed, moving 700,000 barrels of crude, violating sanctions.
How is Russia managing to operate this huge shadow fleet? The Olina case seems to point to how complex their evasion is.
The complexity is staggering. It all relies on rapid identity manipulation. The Olina, for instance, was previously sanctioned under a different name, the Minerva M.
So they just changed the name on the side of the ship?
Change the name, change the flag, change the ownership structure, turn off their transponders to become ghost ships. It's a systematic effort to evade tracking.
And the sources suggest these aren't just random shipping companies. The evasion tactics are linked to high-level political figures.
Very close links. This isn't just about making a quick buck. This is part of the Kremlin's financial strategy. Take the tanker Bella 1, which was seized earlier.
Okay.
It was traced back to a company owned by a Russian businessman named Ilya Bugay. Bugay, in turn, is directly connected to Viktor Baranski.
The pro-Russian politician.
The very same. A politician whose Ukrainian citizenship was stripped in 2024.
So you have a clear nexus here. Sanctioned oil money flowing through businesses controlled by associates of key political figures.
Precisely. That's why these seizures are so powerful. They don't just stop one shipment. They expose the whole corrupt network. The message is clear. Western coordination is raising the cost and the risk of operating this shadow fleet.
Let's pivot back to that question of resolve. The Western response to the Oreshnik threat. Beyond sanctions, we're seeing concrete steps that signal long-term commitment.
Absolutely. The diplomatic moves are getting harder, showing, an institutional indifference to Moscow's threats.
Like the UK.
Exactly. The UK allocated $200 million, that's about $268 million, specifically to prepare its armed forces for a potential deployment, a multinational force in post-war Ukraine.
Which is a direct rebuttal to Russia constantly saying any foreign troops would be legitimate targets.
It's saying, we hear your threats,
Yeah.
and we are actively budgeting and planning for the long-term security of Ukraine anyway.
And this commitment extends right into the air war, which has become this rapid, intense offense-defense race.
This is where innovation, not just brute force, is really winning.
So let's look at that tech race, because the adaptations Russia is making to their cheap drones are, frankly, pretty worrying. What are they doing now?
Well, Russia is showing some ingenuity out of desperation. They're modifying their low-cost Shahed drones.
Which are normally just for hitting buildings.
Right, static infrastructure. Now they're trying to use them to hunt high-value mobile targets. We're seeing reports of Shaheds being equipped with better cameras, radio controls, and, this is astonishing, Verba man-pads.
Man-portable air defense systems. They're strapping an anti-aircraft missile to a cheap drone.
Yes. It's a true asymmetric escalation.
Yeah.
The goal is probably to target Ukrainian fighter jets or maybe the mobile air defense teams that are so good at shooting these things down.
It's a low-cost attempt to neutralize a high-cost asset.
Exactly. And is forcing Ukraine to innovate even faster. This is where Western industrial flexibility is so vital.
And the countermeasure is the Octopus drone. What makes this so crucial?
The Octopus is a Ukrainian-designed interceptor drone, and the UK has committed to mass producing it. We're talking thousands per month.
And the cost is the key factor.
It's the first key factor. The Octopus costs less than 10% of a Russian Shahed.
So you can afford to send 10 interceptors for every one attacker.
You neutralize their cost advantage. But the real game changer here is the speed of development.
Right.
The sources say the Octopus design gets updated every 6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks.
I mean, think about that pace. In military procurement, that is light state. This flexibility is designed to stay ahead of whatever Russia tries. If Russia spends 6 months developing a countermeasure, Ukraine is already on version 4 or 5 of the design.
Rendering the Russian effort obsolete before it even gets deployed.
That DIB flexibility is proving to be a decisive advantage.
And to tie all this together, the attrition, the oil seizures, the tech race Europe is also cementing a long-term financial guarantee.
This is the institutional commitment that underpins everything else. The European Union has moved to indefinitely freeze 210 billion euros.
That's roughly $247 billion in Russian central bank assets.
And this isn't just a temporary sanction.
So how does that frozen money actually help Ukraine? It's not like they can just seize the principal sum.
Right. It's a clever financial move. They aren't taking the 210 billion euros, which avoids legal issues. Instead, they're taking the interest and the profits generated by those frozen assets.
Ah, I see.
The EU is going to use that yield to provide a reparations loan of up to 165 billion euros for Ukraine. It institutionalizes long-term financial pressure on Russia while guaranteeing a sustained flow of capital for Ukraine.
So these events in early January 2026, they really show the war is shifting.
It's a new phase. It's defined by strategic attrition, far from the front lines, targeting the enemy's ability to endure.
Ukraine is systematically degrading Russia's economic and logistical assets, like we saw in Volgograd.
While Western partners are simultaneously suffocating their shadow economy with these tanker seizures.
And on the defense side, the technological race shows Ukraine and its partners are innovating at an incredible speed.
The Octopus drone, with that 6-week update cycle, it demonstrates a structural superiority in the defense industrial base that Moscow is just struggling to match. Every action we covered today reduces Russia's capacity to wage a long war.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to take away. The Kremlin's whole goal with the Oreshnik strike was to scare Europe out of providing future security guarantees. But by striking deep into Volgograd and accelerating the Octopus drone production, has Kiev effectively called Moscow's bluff? Are they signaling that intimidation will only result in faster and deeper strikes on Russia's own economic infrastructure? You've been listening to Defense Report, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.